Hello everyone, welcome to this card review video. I am joined by plzdonhakme, who is a newer streamer and was in the top 100 legend for September. So today we're going to be talking about this new card for October, this Dushnika Yal Archer. And forgive me, all you orcs, if I messed up that name. It is a 3/3 guard for 4 that can either deal 1 damage or destroy an enemy support card. This is definitely one of the more interesting ones. So what's your opinion on this card initially?
Well, when I first saw this card, I thought it seemed kind of underwhelming, like most people did. And because first of all, it's strength, which you want more offensive cards, and to have an understated card that doesn't even do much damage and has guard, it seems pretty underwhelming.
Right, yeah.
And that was my first impressions as well. But when I kind of like thought about it a bit more, all it means is that it goes into different red decks, and in those other red decks, I think it can be really powerful.
Oh,
so first
yeah.
of all, Karakan, if you guys know him, he obviously has his Doom Crag warrior, and I think this can definitely find a place there. And more importantly, as it's so good, like in any mid-range or control-based red decks or strength decks, it absolutely demolishes tokens. Because I'm just going to compare it to Belligerent Giant and Shadowfen Priest, the alternative support removal that's not Vicious Droog. And those cards are both higher cost, and they don't provide a guard. This card absolutely demolishes the aggro decks because it can both destroy Fervor and put a guard in the same turn, which is actually one of the reasons. The inability to do so before was one of the reasons Fervor let token decks apply so much pressure, and now you can actually both deal with that. And if you don't have, if they don't have Fervor, you can also ping, and that often lets you kill one of the aggressive creatures too.
Oh yeah, I agree, and especially when you look at this card, I think you really do need to focus on that 1 damage ping or that destroy an enemy support. Mostly, I think on the 1 damage ping, because without its abilities, this is essentially just an overpriced Guar. But that 1 damage ping can mean quite a lot in setting up favorable trades and getting rid of a lot of aggressive red creatures that only have 1 health, like Greystone Ravager, for example.
A lot of the time, I'm just going to mention this as well. A lot of the time, the aggressive red creatures will also survive trades with 1 HP, whether it's because they played like a shield breaker, or because they played, a mighty ally into a dark guardian, or different situations like that. And that ping can help. It can also set up leaf lurkers if you're playing archer. I think it can find a place in rage archer for sure to control against aggressive or token decks. So those are also options, and the fact that it has 3 attack means, unlike some other guards, it can trade into Mighty Ally.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. That also sets it up for a lot of favorable trades with 1, 2, and even 3 cost creatures.
Most times you would look at it in a control-ish deck, but in terms of, I think it can also find a place in mid-rangey aggro decks, like, for example, obviously Orc decks, because first of all, orcs have very few guard options, but guard options can be absolutely terrifying, both because they gain the buffs and also because they can protect creatures like Orc Clan Captain, which can be extremely devastating. But orcs have few guards. Like, you can even see some orc decks run Farron Defender, which is a pretty suboptimal card, having only 1 attack. But this can definitely be a good position to protect your more offensive buff cards and similar situations.
I do think this card is definitely going to find its place in Warrior, and especially with that added support removal, it just makes the Warrior versus Ramp Scout matchup so much better when you're countering things like Histgrove. You have so many different options for destroying enemy supports. I think that's really nice too.
Oh yes, of course. Well, first of all, it is the cheapest support removal, I think.
I think it's actually tied with Vicious Drew, which is the 3/4 neutral that destroys the support.
Cheapest, not bad support removal. Actually, look at this card. Like, when I first saw the article on the page, which didn't have a picture of the card, all I saw was orcs, which means it's either red or purple, and I was hoping so much that it would be purple, so I could replace my Shadow Fins. And this just might be good enough for me to consider trying Ramp Warrior for once, see how that goes. Replace Shadow Fins because it can set up actually stabilization against the aggro decks.
Oh yeah, that's for sure, and that's one thing that I have flung myself helplessly at the ladder with Ramp Warrior several times, and that's one of the major weaknesses with Ramp Warrior is its inability to control the early game, and I think this card will help it out in that way.
One more kind of irrelevant mention. This might be irrelevant, but the fact that if they play a Garnag, you'll have 3 Magicka left instead of 2 compared to, say, Shadowfen, means there's so many more options. For, 2 mana cards, what are you going to play, right? 3 mana card, you can play Dark Guardian. Oh, yeah. So Garnag is normally a card that is meant to choke out your last breath, and this card can definitely help in a situation like that.
So, in your opinion, what cards, what decks are you most eager to try this out in? I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but do you have any decks right now you're gonna start with?
Oh, tomorrow I might actually include this in the Crusader deck I've been running. I started trying yesterday. It's like an aggro Crusader with the option to go aggressive, but it can play control, kind of like a control against more aggro decks, and it can play kind of mid-range against the more control decks. But it basically it depends on raiding parties, mark cards, and I include Divine Fervors to set up an OTK, because against mages that try to stabilize with guards, it can be really difficult to finish them off with an aggro deck. So I included the option to deal 20 to 30 to 40 damage in a single turn. Yesterday, I went against the control mage, and I started having some 7/3 Nord Firebrands. So, but the thing is, sometimes it can be pretty iffy, since my only real guard option to defend my Orc clan captains, my 5th Legion trainers, even my Rift Thanes were Candlehearth Brawler. Right. So I am pretty hyped to try including this, and the fact that now I can even include support removal in a deck that been counted as aggressive, to be able to remove those Northwind Outposts or those Divine Fervors. I think it will be extremely powerful and can bring a lot of these aggressive decks to spare. And since I think those were some of my lowest win rate, and as an added option, I got steamrolled by mid-range Sorcerer. So being able to pop those wards without trading a creature is definitely a good thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And in any deck that's support removal is limited to Belligerent Giant on turn 6 or 7, it's very, very good to have an earlier support.
Yeah, exactly. That's really expensive, especially when you don't need the aggressive stats from Belligerent Giant in those slower decks. The Rages don't even need them because they have Vigilant Giants and Children of Hersine. Yes, I just pluralized it that way.
Right.
So I also, as I said before, plan to try it in decks like Ramp Warrior, or if I ever get around to it, maybe even Control Crusader, but probably not for a while.
No, I'm very excited to see whether or not this card can actually help my Ramp Warrior climb a little bit better than it has before.
Oh, actually, one point I did forget to mention, now that I remembered, when I just mentioned Control Crusader, this is huge, because if we look at Control Crusader, if we look at Control Mage, the reason it's so popular, we've got Prophecy, Lightning Bolts, and Lightning Bolts in general. It's just such a good card. And we've got the Ice Storm, the ultimate anti-aggro card. And as I said before, this helps against aggro a lot. And not to mention the fact that Control Mage's greatest weakness is known to be Ramp Scout. And now they've got an answer to the Hist Groves, which I think is going to be huge, without having to burn Vicious Jukes. It helps them against support decks, like the support Control Mage, get rid of the gold brands, stuff like that. And as I said before, also helps get rid of Northwind Outposts. And I think all of these options make Control Crusader quite enticing as well, which I never even thought about before.
Well, and that's one of those decks that has been relatively new. Before Skyrim and in the early days of the game, the idea of a Control Crusader was kind of laughable. but now it's been seeing a lot of play.
Yeah, I actually haven't even seen it that much right up until the latest top 32 tourney when I heard a lot of people have been running it, but I only tuned in for some of it, and I saw Aini steamroll CVH with the Control Crusader, and I thought that was interesting. Like the fact that he was actually able to efficiently answer everything that CVH played was surprising to me. So I think Control Crusader, which was pretty ignored before, so to speak, is definitely going to see even more play now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one more interaction that I want to talk about is the Doom Crag Archer interaction, and this is one that
Doom Crag Warrior.
Yeah, this is one that I've always been shaky about because, as a rule, I don't like Doom Crag anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be underestimated. As I said before, the fact that it's a guard means you can protect those key cards like your Doom Crags, your Lucian. It can't just be an absolute nightmare on top of the fact that it already has the 1 damage ping to synergize with it. So I think it can be an absolute nightmare, and it makes Doom Crag even scarier to me.
Well, and I think one of the things that I really had a problem with when I tried playing Doom Crag and when I've seen people play Doom Crag is that Doom Crag's survivability, right? Because your combinations with Doom Crag are so high cost, you usually need to set them up. And when you only have a 4-cost creature, any way you can help try to increase its survivability really helps get those combos off. And I think,
well, I mean, yeah, of course, it'll never be immune to the lightning bolt, but that's given. But yeah, like Doom Crags at most before is survived by just sending charge Nord Firebrands or pings.
Right.
But having both a ping and a guard on the same card is just so good for Doom Crag, like indisputably so.
You're not only are you getting rid of a creature with that 1 damage ping, you're also throwing down a guard. Although it kind of feels like a little bit of an overpriced Manticora, but like an overpowered Manticora. But
yeah, I mean, Doom Crag Warrior is a lower end deck.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Deck. So it is pretty aggressive too. So you've got to keep that in mind. The Doom Crag deck is pretty filled with it's like an anti-aggro deck where you remove theirs and stop them with guards with like word walls and stuff while you keep on the assault, and this is just one more option that fits both those criteria in a single card, which if you think about it, it is also works for card advantage in a way.
I agree. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about in relation to this card?
I mean, the thing is, red is normally associated with aggro, but since this is such an anti-aggro card, I do think the meta will shift away from aggro. It has been really prevalent the past couple seasons because of Ulfric Housecarl, so who knows, maybe we'll see it in the aggro decks instead as an aggro anti-aggro card, turning aggro into a bit mid-rangey, but I do think it will push the meta a little bit away from aggro, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see, right?
Well,
but I do want to add, don't forget that Northwind Outposts are very common as a low-cost support, so I don't think that you have to worry about not getting the value out of its effect, just because of how, because you're afraid that there won't be enough supports. But Northwind Outpost is a 2-mana support that's often played. So.
Oh, yeah. And Northwind Outpost is one of those cards that as soon as you see it played, you know you're facing an aggressive red deck.
Exactly.
You know the Firebrands are coming. You know the all of the rest of the red aggro. So.
Yeah, I mean, once you get rid of a Northwind Outpost, their creatures suddenly become a lot less scary. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But you can even include Northwind Outposts in some of the decks you can run this card in. So that's going to be... You might even have some interesting duels between this card and another copy of itself. But yeah. I think that covers about everything. But I do think the meta will shift a bit away from tokens, despite how underwhelming this card has left as a first impression to most people. And maybe with some experimentation, we'll see how and some new fancy decks even.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will definitely be excited come November 1st to try out this card in several different decks, and it sounds like you are too.
Oh yeah. I mean, you guys just gotta accept that first impressions don't always mean a lot. Because Pure Blood Elder, when they announced that card, everybody thought it was going to be broken, and now it's not in any meta deck.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. That's true.
Prepared to be surprised.
Well, thank you for joining.
No problem.
And thank you guys for watching. This video is set to release on November 1st, which is tomorrow. So you should have plenty of time to play with this card. And please make sure you drop by Please Don't Hack Me on his stream channel when he streams. And a link for that will be below in the description. Thank you and good night.
Spare us your stories, old man, unless they can sharpen spears. Our war chief is dying.
We should go, Kellen. We have the scroll we came for. Patience now. The Elder Scrolls show us what was, and what yet will be. They have revealed much to me.